Yeah!
A big what's up to everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am proud to begin another season of Why the Hell Do I Support and Give a Damn about the Philadelphia 76ers. But what is goody though? Like for real, y'all. We are embarking on our first content of the 2023-2024 season, which is even wild to like say, which means that I've been, producing content on this channel, covering this team for my 5th season. And goodness gracious, what a ride it has been thus far. As always, I appreciate each and every single one of you all for messing with the content and for supporting me every single step of the way, from my fan interviews to my video compilations, skits, and now podcast. I promise you it does not go without notice, especially when y'all, engage in the comment sections. So once again, thank you so much. So in this video, we will be going over every single offseason move that your 76ers have made thus far. I'm going to give my overall opinion as well as analysis, and we'll try to wrap it up by me giving a grade of the jaunt so far. Sound good? I thought so. Without further ado, let's get to the video. Okay, so I thought it would be best to go in chronological order, simply for narrative purposes. So I guess we can start with the draft, and we'll be able to zoom right by this section because the team had zero draft picks going into that night, meaning that as a result, we were not able to choose from the supposed best 30 prospects coming out of college, and let's just say the G League. And all of this occurred because we traded for James Harden as well as Jaden McDaniels, but we don't have to talk about that right now. We can get into that later. But we were able to acquire some undrafted talent and Terquavion Smith as well as Ricky Council IV, who are both wing players respectively. They're like that, 2-3 mix in between positionalist type balls. Being honest, respectfully, at this point in my fandom of this team, I'm not really worried about players who aren't going to have that much of an impact this season. So unfortunately, I really don't care, and we're going to look over it. With that out of the way, actually, how could I forget? Y'all squad finally fired Doc Glenn Rivers and hired an old-time friend of the organization, Nick Nurse, to become the next head coach of the Sixers. I think he's like either the 25th or 26th head coach in Sixers history. I already talked about him in depth on a previous video that you can find in my description. But to summarize, I like the signing because I thought he, and along with Sam Cassell, were the only realistic options if this team was actually serious about winning a championship. The players on the floor, Joel Embiid specifically, need a coach who will yell at them and keep them accountable, a word that we have said over the last 8+ years, which Glenn nor Brett Brown could do. But also in addition to that, somebody who is able to bail out the players every now and then with XO play calling. And put it like this: who better else to teach Joel how to unlock the hidden beast than the man who usually strapped him up for the last few years, game after game, minus that one playoff series 2 years ago. Moving along to free agency, your boys let go some of our favorites, our player favorites, but also picked up some well-known pieces. Starting with the bad news first. The 76ers let go of Georges Niang, Shake Milton, and Jalen McDaniels. Let all of them boys walk. Niang went to Cleveland for $26 million for like 3 years, which we obviously wasn't going to pay. Shake to the Wolves for 2 years, $10 million, and Jalen McDaniels to Toronto for 2 years, $9 million. Okay, first off on the Jalen thing, because that's the main thing that got me mad, or not even mad, but like perturbed. What a waste of a trade. Like, we gave up Matisse and a 2nd round draft pick for him, who didn't even get run in the playoffs. Now, by no means am I a Matisse defender. We already know how like his lack of a shot messed up this team. Well, made him not get that many minutes. But shoot, like I would make the argument that his defense could have been, and I'm talking about T-Ser, could have been used against Tatum maybe game 7 in the fourth quarter of game 6 when we lost to those Bulls. And again, a draft pick that we could have used this year was given away. Sure, we got some picks back or assets back. One of them is in 2029 though. Like, come on, yo. Like, a very poor trade from Morey. Very, 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 very poor trade to begin with. And it's interesting because you could tell, like, during the actual season, McDaniels was not, up to standard that the Sixers thought he could be, missing layups, missing dunks, not really shooting consistently from 3. I personally did not like the actual trade, like, 1 month into him being in Philly, but it is what it is. On to the other two. Niang. Again, Bull got paid $26 million, and that wasn't going to occur here. I appreciate his services in Philly, especially after the whole number 25, he who shall not be named situation. Niang came in and was a player who just got the Philly fandom and what it meant to be a Philly superstar athlete. Maybe not superstar, but still athlete. Just intense, getting in Bulls' faces, talking that talk. But I don't really think we lost anything by his departure because he, didn't really help us in the playoffs that much. And if we're going to be honest, I was over him after he touched Jaylen Brown's knee in the 7th game of last series that we played. Come on, boy. The game was pretty much close until that point, and the Celtics clearly took that as disrespect. So I was done with him, and it was time. For my boy Shake, man, my guy, he's been here for a while. I believe he is the third longest, or was the third longest tenured Sixer after Furkan and Embiid. So he deserves his flowers off of that overall. He played very slow, or too slow, which is why I think he had to go. You really can't play him with Embiid, and if he's not going to be able to be on the court with Embiid, what is the actual point? I think he's going to have more minutes in Minnesota, where he can play his style of game and not be, forced to assimilate to an offense as much. I'm gonna miss him though, because that was my guy, and there was definitely flashes of brilliance. We will always have when he, came into the Hawks game back in 2021 in the playoffs when we were down and out. I was saying, yo, Glenn, put that ball Shake in, and he did, and we won the game. And I'll always remember the fight with Joel in the bubble. So thank you to these guys. You will be missed. You definitely will be missed. But for pickups, we signed one Patrick Beverley to a 1-year veteran minimum deal. I already made a video about him as well, and what it can mean for the Sixers. Find it in my description. But long story short, I would say he is here for his dog mentality, which we still somehow need after, signing PJ and Trez, whatever that means. He took the minimum offer with this squad, with other offers on the table. I was hearing on his podcast. Since I said that now, he has a podcast that would be very fun to listen to and watch during the season. But he had, offers with Boston, and a few other East Coast teams, but he didn't want to wait. But once again, he had other options, other better options everywhere else. So we'll see how his defensive impact, along with Trez, along with PJ, helps this team and mindset moving forward. Sixers also signed another 1-year deal. Daryl loves these 1-year joints with Mo Bamba, which is why you're hearing this instrumental. Exactly. He is coming from LA, where he has not played that well. As y'all all know, he was a top 10 pick, but he hasn't really been doing much in the league, or to this point. We all know him for rebounding, where he averaged, for real, other than, his rebounding, he's just going to be someone for Joel Embiid to bully in practice. We also re-signed Montrezl Harrell back to a 1-year deal. This kind of shocked me since it was reported that he just walked for free agency like 2 weeks ago. Assuming B-Ball Paul stays, we have 4 big men: Embiid, Mo, Trez, and Paul. So it's obvious that we are going to gear up for that Embiid minutes restriction, something a la 2009 Kawhi Leonard, which I don't mind because at this point, Embiid got his MVP. He already proved who he is. We need him healthy in the playoffs. So sit his butt down, give him that vegan diet, and let's see how we do in the playoffs. Because that's, honestly, the key. Stars win playoff games. But yeah, we are still in a holding pattern because we're dealing with James Harden, who demanded a trade after deciding to opt into his $30-something million contract after not obtaining the amount of bread and probably a year amount that he wanted from Daryl Morey and the Sixers. With nothing going on and presumably the market being low for Harden, not many teams seemed willing to pull that trigger on the trade. Thus, the Sixers might be running it back. Unfortunately, I think it's 4 years too late. But from the photos from the, Michael Rubin's famous white party soiree, the answer seems like yes, we're going to run it all the way back. Look at Toby in these joints telling y'all to eat his crumble cookies worth over $40 million. Personally, I couldn't bring Harden back on a long-term max deal because frankly, you cannot have 2 losers leading your franchise in playoff games, and that's exactly what we have in the Embiid and Harden duo. Once again, word to Game 7 in Boston. Pitiful, but yeah, that's where we're at in an holding pattern right now. So overall, the actual grade that I would give this off season is a C, but that's just because we stayed pat for the actual most part. At this point, I'm assuming that Harden stays, Embiid, Maxey, Tobias, Melton, and him, if they cannot, get over the playoff hump with extra dogs and PJ, Montrez, and now Pat Bev, then this team was buns to begin with, which unfortunately I think we are. I just think that going out like that Game 7 showed us who we are. Obviously things can change, but that was such a very bad look, especially for Embiid. I'm still mad at Bull. We will sit and wait to see if the Sixers do any other moves. I want to thank everybody for pulling up and listening to a brother think. Like, comment, share, subscribe with Sixers Fiend if you feel so inclined. What grade would you give Daryl Morey, Elton Brand, and the Sixers up to this point? Let me know. As always, them Bulls are mad because the process. I can't say that no more. That's ridiculous. My name is Kain, and I will see you next time. Peace.